So I watched The Mist again the other day.
The TV show or the movie?
The movie. I've never seen the TV show.
Nor have I. I rather like the movie. Go on.
Yeah, I like it too. That's an interesting monster.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean,
I think the ending is kind of...
I think the monster in that film is mob mentality, right? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of... That movie is almost like The Walking Dead before The Walking Dead.
really. Actually, that's a very astute point.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. After having watched The Walking Dead, obviously. You know, it's more about politics and power structures and whatever.
You know what I loved about that movie? Other than the tentacles, but those don't look like fun tentacles. They're like the rip your flesh off tentacles.
What do the fun ones look like?
You know what the fun ones look like.
What?
You know what the fun ones look like.
I don't know.
I had a thought, like, what?
What?
How many of our listeners stay for the tentacles? I'm just curious. Let us know if you're one. Anyways, the tentacle monster is cool in that movie. I really, really, really love the stinging insect ones.
Oh, those are fun.
The one, dude, making people's faces like blow up all bulbous and
Yeah, that was sweet.
pus filled.
So, in the Halloween spirit, we're gonna do horror movies for the next few episodes. What's your ultimate Halloween horror flick, Andrew?
Part of me, almost by default, has to say Halloween because I am like the ultimate John Carpenter fanboy. But today's film actually I think is a strong one in the running. Hence why I put it on the schedule. Yeah, I did some work for this podcast. I built out a schedule for the rest of the calendar year.
There you go.
It's the most organized I've ever felt.
Heck yeah. I mean, for me, I like The Shining. I mean, that's my ultimate scary movie, you know?
It is probably my ultimate scary movie as well. Obviously, The Thing is the other primary contender. But I don't think of it as a Halloween film.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a Halloween film, but... I mean, I don't know that any that are Halloween themed are my favorites, but...
I think Halloween is
quite good. Halloween is quite good. Great soundtrack. That is the soundtrack of Halloween.
It is.
I have the soundtrack.
They fucking music. Snailed it, man. The film we're doing today is very high up on my list of like favorite Halloween movies, but I don't know. It's just too tough for me to pick a favorite. Really, I watch horror movies. I already watch them like all the time, all year long. But through October, I quadrupled down on my horror movie intake. Nice. Obviously, I try to squeeze in some Ghostbusters as well. You know, if I'm hanging out with a chick, maybe Hocus Pocus ends up getting worked into the rotation. But every spare moment I have during this month, I just cram as much horror films into it as I possibly can. I love Halloween. My whole family loves Halloween. Like, my uncle goes over the top with his yard decorations.
Halloween rules. Did you ever TP any houses?
As a kid?
Yeah. I mean, or as an adult.
Or as an adult. No, I have not TP'd. I've not vandalized anyone's property as an adult.
I didn't either.
But as a kid, I for sure threw some TP over some houses and trees.
I did get drunk and, you know, do all the fun things that Halloween... And it's interesting because in today's film, which, by the way, welcome back to Far Out Flicks. I'm Braden. This is Andrew.
Hi.
Today we're talking about Trick or Treat, which is a Halloween movie. I think it does a very good job of kind of encapsulating that Halloween is experienced differently at different stages of life. You know, when you're a kid, Halloween is one thing rather than when you're a teenager, rather than when you're an adult.
Why, Braden, that's actually a pretty insightful take on the film. I had never thought about that.
I mean,
you're 100% right.
Yeah, it's just diving right in, it's an anthology series where they tell multiple Halloween stories, and some are from the children's points of view, and some are from like the horny college kids or whatever.
Yeah, and anthology I mean, there's obviously a lot of horror anthology works out there. Some are great, some are so-so. But for me, like, the horror... the Halloweens I remember as a kid had so many of those anthologies, like, on, cable TV or whatever.
Yes.
So it's just, like, perfect in my mind.
Like, what's some of the ones that jump out at you?
Creep Show, obviously, is one.
Creep Show, yeah. Cat's Eye, that's another one that was kind of like a Stephen King anthology.
Yeah, he actually has a couple.
Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood. In recent memory, the VHS series has been mostly pretty good.
I don't think I've seen that.
I always enjoy them, especially for like having like a found footage-esque like theme to all of them, which is like not my favorite style of horror. Obviously very groundbreaking at the time, like when, I guess Blair Witch Project came out, which, I mean, I guess there are films that predate that, but that was like the first one where people were gullible enough to like really bite in. I guess not, because I mean also Cannibal Holocaust also had similar claims about it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. I mean, I knew about like the War of the Worlds and all that.
Another great example. But yeah, the Cannibal Holocaust, like the director had to bring like some of the actors into court to prove that they had not murdered the people.
Holy cow. Oh, yep. Okay. That rings a bell.
Another one that I really, really, really enjoyed recently was Books of Blood.
Okay. What's that about?
So it's based off of some Clive Barker works. There's a film called Book of Blood, also based off of Clive Barker's Book of Blood, which is super, super sweet. It actually has like one of my favorite horror deaths of all time. And I'm not super spoiling, it's right off the bat. If you don't want this spoiled, plug your ears. But basically, like, right off the bat, somebody who's, like, sort of possessed or whatever, like, gets levitated off the ground and then just, like, flayed in the air by, like, an invisible demon or whatever.
Nice.
Like, really like a degloving. Kind of like
a
live leak lathe.
This is becoming a recent theme where we just see people get skinned alive or whatever.
Yes.
Pretty fun.
Pretty fun stuff. I mean, whatever. Freaking Silence of the Lambs did it, and that won an Oscar. But anyways, Books of Blood is an anthology, and it's very new. I think it came out in 2021, and I thought that it was very well done. I had a good time watching all of it. So check it out if you want some other horror anthologies.
Nice. I think it's a good way to experience the horror genre. I love a good horror anthology.
I do. I mean, sometimes I feel like horror movies don't need to be as long as they are. I mean, if they're well done, then I soak up every minute. But sometimes, and like I think as a genre, it usually airs on the shorter side. But you can tell a good scary story in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So today's film is Trick or Treat, written and directed by... Damn it. It's not going
It was written and directed by Michael Dougherty, and was produced by Bryan Singer. You might also know Michael Dougherty from Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yes, and basically he was the screenwriter for Bryan Singer on a bunch of films leading up to this, including X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, which were actually good films, and then I think they took him off the project, or he left, and the third one kind of sucked, right?
Yeah, but I think I also heard Bryan Singer has like all sorts of allegations against him.
Bryan Singer is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I did look him up, and yes, apparently he that likes to rape young boys.
That's his thing.
Allegedly. I think that's the deal. He's been canceled, so, good riddance.
Well, we're doing one of his movies, but he was just a producer.
He was a producer. So, I think what happened is Michael Dougherty, he was the co-writer in all these films. They did Superman Returns together, which didn't do as well. And it was almost like, I don't know that Bryan Singer had that much involvement in this film. This was really Michael Dougherty's passion project. When he was a college student at Tisch School of Arts in New York University, he actually created a short film called Season's Greetings back in 1996, which is like a cartoon version of this film. So this is really his passion project.
So we're going to choose to associate this film with Michael Dougherty and not at all with Bryan Singer.
As far as we know, Michael Dougherty was not complicit. But if you know anything, let us know. Let's get the word out there.
Let someone else know. I don't want to. I don't want to be burdened.
No, I don't want to know. They were pretty tight. I'm just saying.
The problem is, if we were to limit our films,
I know. We'd have nothing. There'd literally be nothing.
It'd be very difficult to find anything.
But yeah, also in this movie, the one licensed popular rock song they use in the film is Marilyn Manson's version of Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. And he's got a whole bunch of allegations against him as well.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does, in fact.
He does indeed. A lot.
Yeah, he went from, in my mind, being associated with somebody who, had, as per many people's perspectives, and there's obviously a lot of perspectives on it, had a very kind of compassionate take on the Columbine shooting. Now that I know that, the two perpetrators of it, whatever their fucking dickhead names are, were actually just true blue sociopaths, and it's not like how the media had tried to portray it is, these poor bullied kids or whatever just finally snapped. He had said, he would have if asked what he could do differently, he would listen to them, which was, it sounded like an insightful thought.
I mean, fair enough. I don't think that's... I think the bad part is all the allegations.
Yes. Now I can't associate him in any way with that. That's what I'm saying. I used to have at least a faintly positive
idea.
He
was trying to be empathetic and,
That, I mean, the other thing I associate him with is the urban legend that he'd had a rib removed so he could suck his own dick.
Yes.
Which is also not true. But I do remember that wildly going around as a child.
Hilarious. But yes, anyway. Yeah, Halloween anthology film. I feel like what he was trying to do here was create the timeless Halloween classic. Every holiday kind of has theirs, I think. Groundhog Day. A Christmas Story. Christmas has a few that are the timeless ones, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed.
Christmas Vacation. I love the Griswolds.
There's so many, but Halloween also has its own. But there's one thing that this movie sets out to do and does is kind of establish some rules of Halloween. If you break them, you'll die.
Which, I mean, I feel like I've never broken any of these because, you would have to be just a total goober smooch or badass little kid to break.
I mean, one is blowing out the pumpkin before midnight. It's
Yeah, you gotta wait till All Saints Day, dude.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like it really captured that feeling of being a kid, going trick-or-treating. It's so much fun. There's nothing else like it, really.
I miss trick-or-treating. I wish adults could go trick-or-treating.
Does that even happen now? I don't even know.
I'm sure someone cool somewhere has like set up an adult trick or treating thing and like give out like little mini bottles or something.
I mean, I was talking about for kids, but that sounds cool too.
Are you asking if trick or treating's a thing anymore?
Yes.
Of course it is.
Nice. But yeah, so Michael Dougherty, apparently this film just got in development hell basically. There were 18 different drafts of the script. All along the way, lots of different ideas were introduced. I guess it was greenlit in 2005, and then it was supposed to be released in theaters in 2007, but they ended up just not releasing it at all, and it went straight to DVD in 2009.
Yeah, I stumbled upon this film, I think in like 2010 or whatever. I believe it was on Netflix at the time.
Okay.
And I was actually blown away that I had seen like essentially zero promotion for this film whatsoever. You know, as somebody who like follows the horror genre, it definitely wasn't in theaters anywhere near me.
I'd never heard of it, and this was the first time I've seen it, and it does seem like an instant classic, you know? And it's insane to me that this movie, being as well made as it is, didn't get a theatrical release. And it's also wild that it's garnered such a cult following that we're talking about it now, you know? It's quite popular.
Yeah.
And it's getting released in theaters for the first time this year.
That's super fucking cool.
It is. So I want to say you could actually go and watch it right now. It's like showing at Regal Cinemas.
I went to a Regal recently and had a really, really bad experience. I understand things are tough with staffing right now, but our friend Jonah and I waited in line to get a couple of beers for 30 minutes.
That's a long time.
We missed the opening of the film.
That's a long time.
And of course the credits, which are like part of the fun of going to a horror movie, because then you get to be informed of what other horror movies are coming up.
I mean, you're definitely supposed to just sneak Tall Boys in. I mean, that's the move for sure.
I mean, it was still hot out. Like, where are we going to sneak them in our pants?
That's a good point.
Yeah, we didn't have
backpack
girlfriends with us. Yeah, they don't let you bring backpacks into the movie theater.
But yeah, let's get into some of the cast of this film. We have Dylan Baker as Principal Stephen Wilkins. We'll just run through a few of the bigger names, I guess.
Yeah.
Dylan Baker is Principal Stephen Wilkins, who, I guess Dylan Baker, he's Dr. Kirk Connors in Spider-Man. So a lot of these people have been in Marvel, those early Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's also in Happiness. Then you have Anna Paquin, who was Rogue in X-Men, the original X-Men films.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Cox, who was the original film depiction of Hannibal Lecter in the Mindhunter film. Or not Mindhunter, Manhunter.
He's also the general in the X-Men films.
Yeah, General Stryker.
Yeah.
He's in Braveheart. He's in Rushmore. I don't remember him being in Rushmore, but I'll have to go back and check that out. I love Rushmore.
Brian Cox has some acting chops.
Brian Cox rules. He's also
really
on Succession, Succession kicks ass. I love him on Succession.
I haven't seen it, but I hear such praise.
You haven't seen it? Because
No.
I told you I loved it, and you were like, "Yeah, it's pretty good."
I don't think I've seen it. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe I was talking out my ass.
That's what we do here at Fire Up Flicks.
I do.
I haven't watched this movie. I just watched a trailer, but...
He's lying, folks. We watch every film.
But yeah, I mean, going back to that, like, straight-to-DVD release, there's a few theories about that. I hope the real truth comes out. I hope it was, like, something that was, like, some deep, dark conspiracies about Bryan Singer or whatever, you know?
And that's, like, they had to delay while they, eliminated the bodies or whatever.
Something like that, you know? They had to shut down the set because they had to use that warehouse to, like, make a kill room.
Okay, so what are the theories Lay them on me.
I mean, they're not that exciting. I mean, essentially, Michael Dougherty and Bryan Singer had worked together on Superman Returns, which infamously was a pretty big flop.
Mm-hmm.
What was that starring the Witcher guy? What's his name?
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, they're bringing back him as Superman. I'm not sure if he was Superman in Superman Returns or not.
Dude, he's a total super Chad. But I don't think it was him in Superman Returns.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that was a big flop. So I guess one theory is the studio just didn't want to spend that much money after the last one was a flop. But also, that same studio was coming out with Saw 4 at that time, and apparently they didn't want any competition, their own films competing against. I just don't understand. It almost seems like something behind the scenes must have happened. Because it's weird.
A far superior film.
It's weird. It's weird. The whole thing's weird. Well, one thing we didn't talk about, the last cast member who's kind of prevalent throughout the film, he's omnipresent on Halloween, is Sam, who is... They kind of like paint him out to be the spirit of Halloween. Halloween doesn't have one character that like defines it, It's Dracula, it's the Mummy, it's a monster.
It's Michael Myers. Again, I think that's like the most defining one probably. But yes, I agree. It's a holiday with many, many, many stars.
And I mean, I think Sam is an attempt at like a single representation of like what Halloween's about.
Yeah.
And when someone breaks the rules of Halloween, Sam kills you.
He's the arbiter of the Halloween god's justice.
And he's a little sack boy. It's like a little kid wearing a sack as a mask.
Yeah, it's burlap sack.
With, I guess, like eyes and a mouth painted on.
Yeah, and he's got like a little onesie he wears.
I mean, he's kind of cute, really.
He is kind of cute. And he's harmless unless you break the rules.
Never break the rules.
No, rules are meant to be followed.
But yeah, in the very first scene, so I guess this all takes place in Ohio. The very opening scene, it shows this woman, Emma, and her husband, Henry. And Emma is trying to blow out the jack-o'-lantern before midnight, which is against the rules. She's taking down the Halloween decorations.
She's being a Halloween grump is what she's being.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of that is Sam tortures and kills people who are Halloween grumps. They're the Ebenezer Scrooges of Halloween. Then the husband, I mean, I don't know what he's doing that's that Halloweenish. He's like, he falls asleep jerking off while he's drunk.
Well, he didn't break any of the Halloween rules. Like,
That's allowed.
I think for many people, that's how Halloween ends.
Too true. This got too real.
Hopefully you end up getting lucky, but
I mean, this guy's not getting lucky, and he's got that. His girlfriend's quite hot.
I think it's his wife, but okay.
Fair.
You can tell because they live together. They'd be living in sin otherwise. God.
But yeah, so Sam, you don't see him in this opening like prologue almost, but she gets ripped apart by someone who's under a ghost sheet and then strung up in the trees, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we get introduced to Sam's weapon, which is a little lollipop.
That's pretty fun. It's like got broken, like a bite out of it, so it's like a jagged crescent moon shape that he just like stabs it right into people.
It looks like a pretty cool little weapon.
Pretty cool little weapon. So next we're introduced to Charlie, who's a little fat boy, which, I mean, I don't mean to say that to be rude, but this kid's an asshole. So I think we can say what we want. Played by the little fat kid who was in Bad Santa, which I love Bad Santa. Oh my God, I'd like to do an episode on Bad Santa.
Well,
he was so good in that.
Christmas is coming up. It'll violate my set that I put together, but I think we could work it out.
That kid stole the show of Bad Santa.
I think it's Billy Bob, but
I mean, even just to be in the same realm of competition with Billy Bob says a lot.
And Bernie Mac, which of course R.I.P.
And Vern Troyer? No, it's not Vern Troyer.
It's not Vern Troyer, dude. It's Vern Troyer's wife.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. R.I.P. But yeah, so Charlie, this little fat boy, he's just going around being a Halloween jackass, kicking pumpkins, stealing candy, just being a little hoodlum.
Being a little hoodlum.
And he just, that's the kind of kid who might like just push you down and make you eat dirt.
Dude, that's the kind of kid who's going to be arrested at a later Halloween in his life.
Yes.
Maybe several, spanning multiple decades.
He's still in the early childhood Halloween crimes, which he's not into TPing. He's like taking too many pieces of candy kind of deal.
Yeah,
maybe he's going to take another kid's
smoking
candy.
meth and breaking into.
And I mean, I guess it's
what you think is a haunted house.
And I mean, I guess he. I mean, does he deserve what's going to happen to him? I don't know. Does the punishment fit the crime? Maybe not, some might say. But what is awesome is, so Dylan Baker shows up, and he's the school principal, and he catches Charlie stealing too many pieces of candy. And he sits him down and, like, makes him eat the candy, and then we learn that, it's been poisoned.
With cyanide.
And yeah, so we see the principal dragging the boy away. So immediately we have child death, which I know Andrew likes.
I know.
I
mean, it's not immediate. It's not right off the bat, but it's pretty close to the start.
I wonder what, like, subconscious reason. Is it because you wanted to kill your little brother because he was getting too much attention or something?
No, I think it just makes me feel better about my inner child having been killed off by monthly bills and a lifetime of corporate servitude.
That'll happen. I mean, I like this film because I feel like something about it is about the inner child and that, like, spirit and feeling of Halloween,
I mean, and I think at the root of Halloween for myself and probably a lot of people, part of the joy is it does bring back those nostalgic feels. You feel, I mean, it gets cool. Everybody remembers, the weather changing as you get into the school year. It's like, I don't know.
I agree.
Right in the golden, warm, tender feels.
I mean, this movie captured that quite well. I could have done with possibly even more Spielberg-esque, like, nostalgia in that department, but it still captured the feeling. But yeah, so after the principal kills this boy, he like digs a giant grave in the backyard. We learn that the principal himself has a son who's like being an annoying little bastard, yelling out the window.
Yeah, getting in the way of this man burying a body.
And then crazy plot twist. The boy keeps asking about carving the jack-o'-lantern. Well, the principal serves up the little boy's head on a plate, and that's the jack-o'-lantern that they're going to carve.
The little boy's carving it with him. So not only do we have child death, but we have child grooming into a serial killer right off the bat as well.
I'm pretty sure that little boy's dressed like Chucky, too.
It's a good little outfit. Good little imagery.
Yep. So next we get a story, the Halloween School Bus Massacre. I quite liked this one. This might even be my favorite. I think it's worth pointing out that this film, it twists them all together like Pulp Fiction style. So you don't really get like a coherent narrative, one story from beginning to end. And I don't know like why they did that. It kind of makes it more interesting. Everything's out of chronological order. But
they're all interwoven.
This Halloween School Bus Massacre, I found it to be one of the more interesting like little clips in the anthology. But it was also one of the most confusing and like crazy ones. But the premise is really fun. It's a school bus full of mentally challenged children. And they're all wearing Halloween costumes. And apparently the Halloween costumes they're wearing were inspired by photos from Ralph Meatyard and Diane Arbus, which captured real mentally disabled children on Halloween, like vintage, which the costumes are terrifying.
Mm-hmm. They are just inherently creepy.
I mean, they made them themselves, and I'm sure they tried to make them terrifying, but they did a good job. Good job. They're way scarier than anything we have now. But yeah, this school bus full of mentally challenged kids wearing these terrifying costumes. Apparently all the actual actors and performers were real mentally challenged children.
I mean, that's pretty, like, inclusive.
No, I love that. And I mean, it sounds like they had
casting.
a great time on set. And I mean, who wouldn't?
That's a happy little note. That's good.
That's super happy. Now it's going to get a lot darker.
Yeah, now we're back to the fictional film.
Now it's going to get a lot darker. We learned that this bus full of mentally challenged children, the bus driver has taken a different path. And then we soon learn that all of their parents are tired of them and have paid the bus driver to get rid of them, quote unquote.
So, kill them.
Which, that's dark. I mean, especially like as possibly a mentally challenged actor playing that part. It's like, that's the plot. That doesn't feel good. So yeah, basically the bus driver drives the bus into a quarry. And he's the only one who survives and all the kids die.
Which is extremely grim and a lot of child death.
Flash forward into the future, you've got a group of children, and they keep talking about how they want to gather 8 pumpkins as like a tribute or a memorial to these 8 kids who died on that school bus that day.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time they're going around, they're collecting pumpkins, blah, blah, blah. There's Rhonda. No one likes Rhonda. Why is Rhonda here?
So it's like the trope of the unpopular girl.
She's Meg from Family Guy, or...
That's the most brutal comparison. But
Tina from Bob's Burgers, you know.
But Tina's great, and her family loves it.
I love Tina.
Yeah.
But Rhonda, everyone hates Rhonda, except for one little boy who's nice to her. But yeah, she's she's dressed like a witch. She probably like tells everyone at school she's a pagan.
She's probably a vegetarian.
Yeah, she probably likes cats. No one cares.
You getting a good picture, audience.
No one gives a shit, Rhonda. But anyway, we're just projecting all this onto Rhonda. Rhonda's done nothing. But ultimately, we learn that, yes, they're gathering these pumpkins. It's all really just a way to play a prank on Rhonda. When they set them all out, they attack her dressed as ghosts.
Which is a pretty good prank. I mean,
and
probably scared the shit out of Rhonda.
Up to this point, they had kept making fun of Rhonda, calling her mentally challenged.
Which is not a nice thing.
It's not a nice thing. But after they played this horrible prank on Rhonda, the real zombie children that were originally on that bus come out of the water and kill them. And Rhonda, they ask Rhonda for help, and she turns her back and just leaves them to die.
Important to note, Macy, one of the popular kids, kicks a jack-o'-lantern into the water.
Yeah. So she has also broken an explicit rule of Halloween.
Yep. Extinguished the flame.
I don't know that all those kids deserve to die, but, you know.
She did, though.
So
because she broke the rule.
So that one wasn't pulled off by Sam. I mean, is the implication that Sam was one of those children, or is he a separate entity?
I think he's a separate entity, okay. But I think he's, like, present there or whatever, like, as the kids kill the teens.
I gotcha. So the next story we get is the surprise party, which is kind of like the hot college bimbo chicks.
Before we get off of the Halloween school bus massacre, it's the children like come back from the dead, and there's like an elevator out of the quarry or whatever. Dude, Rhonda straight up leaves those motherfuckers to the zombie children.
Yeah, so for sure.
There's a little lesson there. Don't be mean to people.
That is true.
You never know when that person might have the ability to close an elevator door and leave you to your death.
That's a good Andrew life lesson.
You'll go far listening to those.
That's right, Flickers. So next we get the surprise party, which is all these ladies have exceptionally nice boobies.
They all do look
There's
really
like
hot.
4 of them. They're quite attractive. And
Which, let's just say it, that's another major perk of Halloween, is that, like, people dress hot.
Well, this is the kind of young adult experience, and this is that segment in the film. And, I mean, it starts off with them putting on costumes. They're trying on costumes in the changing room. And you see a little boy, right out the gate, he gets kind of raunchy and silly. But, you see a little boy peeping in on them. And that little boy was played by Quinn Lord, who is also Sam in some of the scenes.
Oh.
Indeed. So it gets kind of like horny right away, though, which is fun. And then there's one who they keep talking about how it's going to be her first time. And that's Anna Paquin.
She's all nervous about it.
As she should be. As she should be.
And she ends up, her costume, they're all selecting costumes. Hers ends up being, I think, Little Red Riding Hood.
It does. Which,
yeah.
Okay, just going into it. She's being stalked by this man in a mask, essentially. And finally, they're kind of alone together or whatever. Tables are turned. Little Red Riding Hood is actually a werewolf. Whoa, fun, crazy plot twist.
Yes.
And then she destroys that guy. And that guy is actually the principal who,
poisoned the fat man.
Yep.
Or fat child.
Fat boy.
The fat boy.
So that's kind of fun.
It is pretty fun. And all of her werewolf coven managed to seduce young boys out into the woods to party with them. And,
would you fucking a werewolf, Andrew? Go.
In her wolf form? Or how anthropomorphic is it? Like,
fully,
is it
fully?
So it looks like a wolf, or it looks like, you know, what a furry would want a werewolf to look like.
I didn't think about it that.
If it was more anthropomorphic, so kind of like Werewolf of London, you know, just has like a weird drawn out face.
I don't know about that.
Nothing's off the table.
I don't know about that. So anyway, going back to Trick or Treat, the final story, which I have to say this was kind of my favorite one because I just love Brian Cox, love him in Succession. Also, here's a fun fact about Brian Cox in this movie. He said he told everyone he wanted to look like John Carpenter, so they got him wig and prosthetics that made him look like John Carpenter. Which is just a fun little nug.
Great little homage.
Yep. And so yeah, basically Brian Cox, he plays Krieg, who is just a curmudgeon. He's just a grumpy Scrooge guy who's not into the spirit of Halloween. I don't think he wants to answer the door when people are knocking or whatever.
He scares them off his doorstep. Which is like, I feel like that's like at least kind of in the spirit of Halloween.
His house gets egged. You know, eventually he gets ambushed by Sam, who is our little sack boy, evil guy. And Sam, he tries to fuck Sam up, but Sam ends up stabbing him with his lollipop. One of my favorite parts of this scene is Sam has a little candy bar, and you find out it's actually a shank.
Yeah.
And he cuts Krieg's Achilles tendon. That was pretty sick.
The whole thing has like an Evil Dead-esque feel to it, which I feel like
that part's pretty silly and fun.
It's part of the homage as well.
Definitely. Stabs him with the lollipop.
Krieg even uses a shotgun.
And is this the first time? Well, I guess this is the first time we really see Sam kill somebody.
I mean, it's like very implied that Emma at the start of the film was killed by Sam.
Yeah, sure.
Like, we watch him fuck her up.
We learn that Krieg
and jam that lollipop in her mouth.
We do learn that Krieg he was the bus driver who killed those kids. And at the end, Sam, who's the little represents Halloween, he spares Krieg. And then we learn why. Krieg answers the door, and it's all of the drowned, mentally challenged children there. Their ghosts there to kill him.
No, he gives them candy.
Oh, okay.
And then they, like, basically, Sam spares him because he gave the candy out. And he, like, dips out. And then we see pictures burning in the fireplace, revealing that Krieg was the bus driver.
I gotcha. Hey-o.
Yep.
So yeah, Sam keeps these motherfuckers in line. Gotta respect Halloween. Can't be kicking over pumpkins, right?
Yeah, and then we have like a little conclusion scene, which is just like, we see all the people who survived, or rather weren't killed, walking down the street, and it's just like the nice final. It's the conclusion to Halloween.
The final scene. These trick-or-treaters go to Krieg's home, and they greet him before they brutally tear him apart. They come back and kill him, and that's how it ends. That was a fun one.
And that's it.
I had not seen that. I do think it embodies much of the Halloween spirit well. Even if by nothing else, just being overtly about like trick-or-treating and the different stages of, how you experience Halloween.
I think that is a great assessment of the film, and I agree. It is, in my mind, the film that most embodies Halloween. There's a lot of Halloween classics, but like this one is like on par in my mind with like the freaking claymation Santa movies and Christmas
Interesting. Films. I mean, it came out in 2009. I think the other interesting story here is how did a great film like just get shelved like this when so many, I mean, not fully shelved, straight to DVD or whatever, but when so much crap like makes it through the system and has a theatrical release. Here we have a good horror movie.
The last film I saw in theaters before COVID was fucking Sam Raimi's produced remake of the Ring.
You've talked about how bad that experience
was. It was awful, and like for that to have made it through, and this one to have just gotten a DVD release is absurd.
And I mean, I think it's real fun and exciting that like it's gotten such a fan following that now they're releasing it in theaters. You can go see this right now, as far as I know. Also, they have confirmed that Trick or Treat 2 is in production. And I just think a Halloween anthology is, like, it's just perfect. I like it. There was a gap in the market there, Michael Dougherty identified something that did not exist and just made it happen.
He did it, and he did it very well. None of it feels hokey, like...
And when it does, it's like a satire, a parody of, something that's hokey.
Yeah. Intentional.
Which is how it gets away with some stuff, But it is so strange to me that it just wants... I, wish I knew the real story of, why it wasn't real. Maybe it's as simple as all of that, but, what the fuck? Saw 4? I don't think I saw Saw 4. I don't remember Saw 4. This is probably much better than Saw 4.
They probably had to get a bunch of NDAs signed.
There's no promotional
from Bryan Singer's fucking
that's kind of what that's what I'm saying, man. And these accusers, when they're alleging the incidents took place, I mean it's all through this period,
Oh. That's awful.
And Michael Dougherty and Bryan Singer looked like they were kind of tight, but It's weird if you Google Bryan Singer and Michael Dougherty. Like, these guys have worked on a lot of movies together. You'd think there'd be some, like, photos or, like, articles where they're both mentioned. Not really. It's almost like Michael Dougherty managed to scrub his name free of Bryan Singer.
Ooh.
I mean, there's photos, but... yeah, it's weird. I mean, they've worked on, like, almost all of Bryan's, they've worked on at least 5 movies together. That's like Bryan Singer's screenwriter before he got fully canceled. But I guess Michael Dougherty's still working. I don't know. I thought I read that he was working on a Hellraiser TV series, which I did see that there's a new Hellraiser reboot that's on Hulu now.
I was just reading up on the Bryan Singer allegations.
Is right. He is awful.
All right. Well, let's end it before we... I mean, why would we, even bring this back up? He sucks.
All right, Flickers. Thanks for tuning in for another fun episode of Far Out Flicks. Hope you enjoyed this movie, Trick or Treat. If you haven't seen it, like I had not seen it, go check it out. It's super fun.
All right, we'll see you guys next week with some more Halloween goodies. Whoa!